Get me that signal. We need more power.
Okay, yes, I'm Alexis Tipton, and let's see, I've been working as an anime voice actress for about almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years this either October or November, so it's exciting. I work predominantly for FUNimation Entertainment in Dallas, Texas. I also do work for several studios out in Los Angeles, California. I live in Dallas. Some people think I also live in LA. I don't. I just go there for work sometimes. I do mostly video games in Los Angeles, mostly anime in Texas. I just started directing earlier this year. I started with Masamune-kun's Revenge. That was my first solo directorial debut. I had also assistant directed on Love, Live, Sunshine several months before that. And I'm currently working on the anime with the longest title in the world. We call it World Break for short. It is also known as Suka Suka to some of the fans of the Japanese version. Yeah, and some of my newest additions to my resume. I am in the new Fire Emblem game as a character named Claire. She's also in Fire Emblem Heroes. I was announced as Pascal in Nier Automata. Let's see what else. Occupus Beat. I play a character named Moe in that video game, and I also play a character named Haruki, so 2 different characters. In the anime world, most recently, I am playing Yoshino in a little simuldub show called Sakura Quest. I was also announced as the new voice of Kid Trunks in Dragonball Super earlier this year, I guess. And yeah, working on a couple of other things that I can't talk about, some DVD releases, directing, and doing all kinds of stuff like that, going out to Los Angeles and keeping me busy. So, yeah. The way Los Angeles works when it comes to video games, the Japanese are very involved in their process, much more so than they are in Texas. Even with their anime dubbing, they're usually much more involved. We usually have, the director, the engineer, and what we kind of just generally refer to as the client, which is basically the voice for the Japanese company. They usually are fluent in Japanese and can kind of help direct us because there's not really a whole lot of visuals to work with when we're dubbing video games specifically. So they kind of help guide the director as to finding intent, or if translations are kind of getting a little lost, they can help out. Sometimes there's a Skype session with a Japanese representative so they can kind of hear what's going on and add feedback. That was not the case with this one, but we did have a client present. And I'm not sure how close our process was occurring to their process, but I don't think it was simultaneous because we were using a lot of their voice references and to get timing and things like that. So, but I imagine it was fairly close. So there was that, and as far as a lot of anime voice actors being in that series, I mean, anime voice actors are usually also video game actors. I mean, it's all the same kind of voice work, so it kind of kind of flows into each other. But yeah, it's honestly what I think is great is that just so many more Texas actors are now showing up in Los Angeles projects. So like Monica Rial's in there with me, Caitlin Glass. Gosh, who else? There's a lot of women in that franchise. But yeah, and then like Occupus Beat that just came out, like I know Justin Briner's in that, Brittany Karbowski, Tia Ballard, myself, a bunch of Texas represents, so that's really cool too. Oh, well, I think the timing of it all I think was really great because I had been voice acting for 7-8 years before I started directing. And it really does, there are a lot of similarities. I feel that I was given an advantage because I've been working with flaps for so long as a voice actress, so it was a lot easier for me to be able to follow along with that as a director. I was just talking to Micah about this earlier today, actually. Something that I have found that is so fascinating to me that I don't get to do as a voice actress is help with like sound design. I didn't really think there'd be a whole lot of room for that in dub work because so much of it is already set. But we've been experimenting a lot, and especially with my show I'm working on right now, and so and my engineer is like so gung-ho about it, so we've been collaborating a lot, trying to come up with cool like filters and cool voice effects when appropriate. So that's been really cool. It requires the use of a different part of my brain, is like the best way I can say it. You know, being an actor is a lot more artistic, and being a director is much more logical. And I'm having to, you know, as a director, it's like, oh, I'm doing my best to play this character, and then, but if I don't fit the flaps 100%, then the engineer and the director can fix that and take care of it. Whereas now as a director, I'm the one having to figure that out, you know, so it is a little bit more difficult, and a little bit more challenging, but I work at night. We have day sessions and night sessions at Funimation, and so it's really cool to, you know, voice act during the day and use the one part of my brain, and then go in at night and direct and use the other part of my brain. So, yeah, it's really cool. I've really been enjoying directing. It's been very rewarding, and I love having more say and helping a project come to life. So it's been really cool. Yeah.
Hi, what's been your most satisfying and challenging roles as an actor?
Oh, goodness. I'm a huge fan of roles that challenge me. That's like always what I'm after, is like, challenge me, challenge me, challenge me. I always tell, whether it's film or stage or voiceover, I always tell my directors, I'm like, don't be afraid to kick my butt. Like, seriously, I want that. Like, don't coddle me, don't, like, if I'm not giving you what you want, like, tell me, and don't sugarcoat it, like, so I love challenges. Most recent challenges as an actor, I played a character in a show that was a simuldub for Funimation. It's about to come out on DVD. The show's called ReLIFE, and the character's name is Rena. And Rena, I feel like I've played a lot of different kinds of characters, but I usually play more of the happy-go-lucky, positive, upbeat characters. Rena is just a hot mess. Like, ReLIFE is a slice of life, so there's no like supernatural elements or evil characters or anything, but she's going through depression, she's going through kind of an identity crisis, and she's going through all of these things that are very common in today's society, especially with teenagers, and I was kind of going through some rough stuff when I was recording for her, so it was very cathartic getting to play her, but at the same time, she's just so troubled for like half of the series, and that was challenging not to take that home with me, you know what I mean? But I loved playing her, and Jeremy Inman was our director, and he was really encouraging more of a natural delivery, which is something that you can only accomplish so well in anime just because of the nature of the genre and the nature of the visuals, but I always love it when we get to do things with a more natural conversational delivery, closer to film acting, because that is something else I'm very passionate about, and so she was a wonderful challenge, and I loved writing that journey with her. Another challenge was Hana in prison school, for completely different reasons. She's just crazy. And just, oh my gosh, just insane. So having to switch up her, like, between her sweet voice and her I'm gonna kill you voice, and all of her troubles and issues, because I think she has to have them to do the things that she does. That was very challenging too, but yeah, I'm always after a challenge. I love it. Masamune's Revenge was on, it's called a 4-week schedule, which means we're still coming out with a new episode every week, but the Japanese is 4 weeks ahead. So I was able, the Japanese started airing 1 episode a week 4 weeks before the first dub episode. So I was able to watch like 3 or 4 episodes ahead and kind of know where we were going and understand the arc, and it also helped because Masamune's Revenge has a manga, so it was easier to kind of like see if I could, read forums or read things like read scanlations or whatever to kind of get an idea for like, okay, where is this going? Whereas with World End, I'm on a 2-week schedule, which means that I can only watch 1 episode ahead, which is very challenging because World End does not have a manga. It's based off of a light novel, and the light novel translation is It's not very good. It's very confusing. And I know my Jamie Markey is my writer on that show, and I know she's been tearing her hair out because the translations that the Japanese have been providing her for the script have not been very good either. They've been challenging. But yeah, that, and especially with a show like World End that is fantasy and is more drama, you know, Masamune was just zany humor most of the time with some drama thrown in. I definitely have to say I prefer the 4-week schedule. I like knowing where I'm going. And I do imagine that that's something that directors who've been doing this longer than I have miss about the before time, that they could watch an entire show and know, okay, what characters are coming in, how do I need to move the pieces around? Because I find that is one of the most challenging things is casting. Because it's not that I don't have 100% faith in the people that I cast. I know that they could knock whatever role I'm giving them out of the park. But is this the best choice? Or is there a character that's going to come in 5 episodes that they could play even better than this one? So that gets a little frustrating. I like having all my pieces parts available, which I can't now. So yeah, I like recording during both. There's kind of a different energy between the night crew and the day crew. Day crew is 10 to 6, and the night crew is just from 6 to 10. So the night session is much shorter. But there's not as many people around at night, so the studio just kind of has like a different vibe. We're pretty goofy at night. A lot of times, like, oh hey, you know, we'll like go get dinner together, all the directors or some, you know, if any of the actors want to stick around, they're welcome to join us, and that's always really fun. There's kind of a different level of camaraderie than the day session, but there's still amazing camaraderie during the daytime as well. There's just more like hustle bustle, get it done during the day, because everyone at Funimation is there during the day, because we have multiple departments, whereas at night it's just production. So it's also kind of eerie because like all the lights are out. Like half the building.
Just you and the rest of
we have they hired a nighttime producer to kind of corral all of us, and Jeremy Inman calls her the warden. Like, Inman, no, she's great. She'll like turn off the lights after 10, and we're like, wait, no, I'm still in here, stop. But yeah, it has been hard getting home late every night. That's something I'm still getting used to. Because usually I'll act during the day, and maybe I'll get a dinner break, and then I have to go in and direct at night. So I have pretty long days usually. So that's something that I don't really care for, but honestly, like, I like it all. It's work, it's fun, it's kind of different between the day and the night. So yeah, I like the quiet too at night. It makes it, because whenever I direct, I just kind of like get in the zone, and I feel like it's easier to do that at night because just less is going on. Like there's a less chance of someone like barging in your studio wanting something. So I guess if I had to choose, I don't know, night's pretty cool. I mean, just the whole industry is just, it's so different from how it was. I mean, video games and anime, it's just so different from how it was, you know, even 2 or 3 years ago, because the demand is so much greater. You know, quote unquote nerd culture is becoming more, you know, it's not something that just a select group of people enjoy anymore. Like it's very, you know, everybody's a part of it. So of course, by default, there's a higher demand to have more faster. So it is very fast paced with both. The dubbing for video games is just, at least in Los Angeles, it's just a completely different process. At least with simuldubs, we have a visual. With the video games, we have a script. That's it. Even if they have another character that has recorded, we don't hear them. So we're just saying our lines into a vacuum. We're not even like having a conversation with anybody. And a lot of times we'll hear the Japanese file to get a sense for timing, and then you just kind of guess and say it into a microphone. But it is very fast paced. It's kind of like, okay, bam, 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 you know, keep up with the status quo, get a certain number of lines done in an hour, and especially for people like me that come out of town, it's even more dire, because it's like, you gotta get this done before you gotta leave. So, so it is very fast paced. 2 different processes, but both very, yeah, I would say very fast paced. So I like it. It's a challenge. Anybody else? Yeah.
Do you have any advice for younger people looking to get involved in voice acting?
Definitely. I mean, the greatest piece of advice I can give is just be an actor first. Don't get into voice acting just because you like anime. I think you will find that you will be very disappointed. You'll be very disillusioned, because it isn't just. I mean, if you like anime, it's great. It's important to like what you do, but it's a job, and it's a professional job, and it has to be something that you love. Otherwise, you're going to get you're going to get being an actor requires being able to hear the word no and be okay with that. A lot of us joke that actors are the most rejected people on the planet. And it's just part of the job. You have to know not to take it personally. You have to know that, like, okay, I didn't get that one, on to the next. You can't waste time. And you have to do it because you love it. Because if you don't love it, then it's going to be really, really difficult to succumb to that rejection and to take it personally and to be like, oh, I can't do this, I don't belong here, doubt. It's like, no, but if you love it, you need to let that passion drive you. So it is more than just reading lines into a microphone. It is more than just being able to do funny voices. Like, it needs to be a passion. It is acting. It is very challenging. But if you love it, then that's just exciting. Whereas if you don't, then it's just disappointing because you realize it was more difficult than you thought it was going to be, if that makes sense. So, I mean, as is the case with any, especially artistic profession, do it because you feel called to it. Do it because you love it, not because you just like the outcome. Love the work, don't just love the product, if that makes sense. Be an actor first. It's fun. We have cake.
Well, how did you get started? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. What?
How did you get started?
How did I get started? I started stage acting very young. I caught the acting bug when I was in kindergarten. And I was just absolutely in love with the stage and acted a lot in theater all the way up until college. I mean, I still do theater whenever I can. It's just such a time commitment. It's hard to. Yeah, I mean, long story short, how I got in voice acting, I always knew that I wanted acting to be a part of my life in some capacity. It wasn't until I was about 18 that I started I talk for a living. I started entertaining the idea of pursuing it professionally. Long story short, it was kind of, I met someone who gave me advice on how to submit myself for an audition to FUNimation. I loved acting, I was familiar with anime, I enjoyed anime, I thought, what a cool thing to combine the two. I had no expectations, it was just one of those, I'll try it, whatever. I started working for them when I was 19, and by luck or whatever, I'm still doing it. So, yeah, and through that, about 5 years ago, I started studying film acting, and really just have always had a passion for movies and film and all kinds of things like that. Started exploring different kinds of voice work, and it just I can't see myself doing anything else. Maybe I do other things within the acting world, but kind of back to what we were talking about before, it's if you can see yourself doing something else, do that instead. And if you can imagine yourself doing anything else, you'll probably be happier doing whatever that other thing is. But if it's something you love, like I do, and something that drives you, and is something that you have to have in your life, then that'll take you amazing places. So, yeah, just passion, dedication, and learn how to be an actor. It's so funny because for some of the shows, especially before simuldubs, the mangas weren't available in the United States, and so it was they came out when the DVD came out, and people were like, did you read the manga? I'm like, not when we were recording it, yeah. Sorry. I tend to not do it. If it was available to me as an actor, if I was trying to find, twists or something that was going to affect casting, then yes, by all means. I did that a few times with Masamune's Revenge, because there were a couple of plot points that I'm like, so glad I knew that was coming, because that really affects casting. But as an actor, typically no. I've had directors over the years discourage me from doing that. And I find that I really don't want my actors to do it either when I'm directing, because I really like experiencing on both sides, going on the journey with the character. And because so much, everything that we do is what's called cold reading, which means we never have time with scripts ahead of time. The first time you see it is when you do it. I don't want to know what's coming, because then I may have a definite idea in my head of how I want to say it. And especially for really, really intense scenes that require a lot of emotion, if I've planned that in my head, it's going to sound phony. It's going to sound like I phoned it in, and I don't want that. I always want things to sound genuine, and the best way to achieve that is to genuinely feel it, which is not going to happen if you know it's coming. So I've had a lot of directors say, I want them, don't look at spoilers, don't watch ahead, I want you to experience this with your character. And I love using that tool to direct as well, especially in the show I'm working on now, because there's so much happening. I love how it makes me feel when I go through that journey, and now as a director, I love seeing the actors I'm directing experiencing that for the first time. I just think it adds a whole new something to the work. I think the source material always needs to be honored. I don't think you should ever contradict anything that's in the translation, because then if you do that, you're contradicting the story and you're contradicting the characters, and that's a slippery slope. So I believe that the source material needs to be honored as much as possible for that reason. But just like you said, translating humor, especially from Japanese to English, is very difficult because our senses of humor are so different. And there are things that just will not translate. So in cases like that, I think it is important to localize the humor. The creator of Shin-chan, who's unfortunately now deceased, he made a big deal out of that. He said, I want you to make all of this humor pertinent to whatever society is, whatever language is translating it, because I want everyone all over the world to be able to enjoy this. This is meant to make people laugh, and if you don't understand the humor, it's not going to make you laugh. And so I've always remembered that. I also believe that, if something's just not fitting a line, or fitting a flap, if the line's not fitting the flaps, obviously you're going to have to pad it up a little bit, or do things like that. But I think sometimes it's fun to take a little bit of artistic license. We did a few times in Masamune. Nothing that ever contradicted the plot, just to make a situation slightly funnier. But yeah, I don't ever want to contradict what the Japanese have created, because there's no point in that. Like, we're telling their story. So thank you guys so much. It was so great. Really great questions.
Thank you.
Given that, we need more time.